another one, here's an interesting one. The whole ethno-nationalist versus civic nationalist divide, right? So ethno-nationalist being the idea of having your nationality attached to ethnicity, and civic nationalism is the idea of people being given nationhood or nationality without having a sort of blood or genetic connection with the land, right? Now this is tricky because you're talking about all these different variations of personality and problems, but before I go deeper into it, the priority is we have to ask ourselves the question, is this concept, before people start getting triggered with their emotions and saying we're being replaced and just all that, just calm down, don't worry, whatever you know I know as well, but just hear me out for a moment, right? On this subject, I mean, hear me out for a moment. When we're approaching a concept like ethno-nationalism or civic nationalism, the first thing you should think when people start talking about this stuff, particularly where there's a dichotomy involved, like ethno-nationalism and civic nationalism, the very first thing we should think is it causing a divide? Is it causing a split? Is it causing people to go in different directions? And the answer to that question when it comes to this topic is 100%. Unfortunately, it's causing division. Even if it doesn't cause division in political parties necessarily, it causes division within people, within discourse. That's not a good thing, because like what I was saying, like there's always going to be a portion of the population who are brainwashed in Marxism, who are anti-patriots, right? Imagine they're in this group. You got people in the middle group who are apathetic, apolitical, lazy, disinterested, etc., conspiracy tards, whatever, spiritual people, right? And you've got people on that side who are engaged politically, who know nationalism is good. I'm focusing on that group in this video, right? Within that group. You can't have any splits within that group. You need to keep united. You can't allow splits. It's inefficient. It's not going to produce results. And that's not my opinion. This is just, it's mathematical. It's logic. It's that straightforward. And people walk into this all the time. They walk into these traps like these all the time, where they get an idea into their head. They think they've got it all figured out, and they say, I'm right, and that group over there is wrong, and I'm not going to fucking work with those. Now, sometimes you are right to think that, for example, if they're brainwashed, or they're subversive, or they're traitors or something like that. I mentioned the Marxist earlier. You don't want to work with people who are brainwashed and insane, because they're detached from reality. But I mean, other people who can reason and who are generally on the right track, you don't alienate yourself from people like that. They're not the enemy. And as I often say, this whole struggle we're in is going to test people's ability to control their emotions and act like fucking adults. And I'm just not seeing that to a high enough degree, unfortunately. It's just not there. So to get into the nuts and bolts of it, what's my stance now? I've been saying it for years that, of course, we've got an ethnic element to the globalist control system. And if you've seen my presentation, I go into it in depth. I was educating the Americans as to what is happening to Ireland in terms of our demographic replacement. So again, nobody watching will know more about that stuff than me. I highly doubt it, because I've been interested in that subject for a long time. But yet, I suppose I would call myself an ethno-nationalist, but I'm not like other people necessarily. I'd have to know what their stance is. Like I was saying, if I say I'm an ethno-nationalist and I refuse to deal with anyone who doesn't think exactly like me, I'm not that kind of person. And there are some people like that. And that's not good, because they're causing a split. You see, it's not good. I'm not causing the split. So I acknowledge there's a problem with ethnicity. I acknowledge that we need to stop Ireland being, the Irish being demographically replaced within Ireland. I understand that. However, I don't have this fanatical mentality or animosity towards anybody who doesn't think like me or who isn't ethnically Irish. It's quite complex, because you're talking about personalities. How do you work this out, and where do you draw the line in so many ways? Imagine somebody's living in Ireland 20 years. They've grown up in Ireland, and they might be just like us unless you're brainwashed. Us in terms of our mentality, they might be anti-globalist, conservative in their mindset, right? Would you rather they stay in the country, Or would you want to deport them? Or are you would you rather, what about all the white Irish, 100% Irish homegrown Marxist degenerates who should be in mental homes, who are anti-Irish? What about them? You see what I mean? Like, who do you prioritise? So this is where it gets tricky. So the thing is, I'm not silly enough to tell you exactly how I would organise that right now, because I'm not running the damn country. But there are people within the nationalist movement in Ireland, and nobody within the Irish nationalist movement, for any, particularly any non-Irish people watching, nobody within the nationalist movement in Ireland has any real political power. That's not a personal knock on anyone. I mean the ability to control Ireland's border and make decisions, right? And for any Americans watching in particular, they're always curious about this. We don't have any nationalist parties or patriotic parties within the Irish government, the Irish Parliament. So my point is, you see, people don't have any actual power to affect change, right? They can't even get themselves organised into a group properly, or an efficient, successful, organised group, but yet they're saying, I want Ireland to be free on these terms. That's childish. That's what that is. You can keep your principles, but also be conscious of where you are at the moment, and at least be open with working with other people, and don't be so rigid in what you're looking for and in your mindset. And unfortunately, that limited level of intelligence is a real problem in Ireland. There's so much more I could say on that, but I'll move on, because it's, you know, it's quite a huge subject. Maybe if someone asks me about that, I can expand on it. So again, to put it in simple terms for anyone tuning in late, because I understand how some people might have reactions to these things, I 100% see that there's an ethnic replacement agenda as part of what's going on, while at the same time I think it's stupid for people to allow these divisions to be created. Just call yourselves nationalists and be willing to work with anybody who's nationalist and organise into a powerful movement. Don't allow the splits to happen. And then see if you can get things organised and affect change. Because it's so funny, I think of the phrase, beggars can't be choosers. So it's quite funny, people within Ireland who call themselves nationalists or patriots, that they want to stop the global agenda on their own terms. And they're very, very strict about where their principles are, and they think that that's intelligent and noble. In terms of actually being organised and producing results, it's absolutely so stupid.